Literacy can be a challenging concept to define. There are many ways to be literate in any particular subject. However, contrary to popular belief, literacy is much more than simply reading or writing. It can be demonstrated in numerous ways. This interview was conducted to highlight specific literacies necessary to thrive in the culinary arts industry. It emphasizes advice from a former pastry chef speaking about the realities of what it takes to be literate in multiple facets of the culinary arts industry. I'm here with Jessica Schultz, former pastry chef at V Restaurant, and she's here to answer a few questions I have about working in the industry. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Allie.
All right, so the first question I have is, how is literacy thought of and demonstrated within the discipline of being a pastry chef?
Working in the back of house at a restaurant, literacy is super important when it comes to reading and interpreting recipes and directions. If you don't know what any of the measurements mean, you're in trouble. Literacy in terms of having an education and knowledge of a particular subject or field is also crucial. Restaurants are busy and there isn't a lot of time to train the employees from the very basics. It is important to have a solid foundation, so all you have to be trained on are restaurant-specific skills or instructions. For example, when I worked as a pastry chef, I knew all the basics and techniques, so all I was trained on was what the day-to-day responsibilities in the kitchen are. I didn't need anyone to really hold my hand when I was baking recipes.
Dictionary.com defines literacy in 3 ways. Number 1 being the quality or state of being literate, especially the ability to read and write. Number 2, possession of education. And number 3, a person's knowledge of a particular subject or field. Now, are there any certain skills that are necessary to be literate in your discipline that may differ from traditional definitions of literacy?
I don't really think so. Pretty much as long as you have some type of knowledge and understanding about the field you are entering, and you have the ability to read and interpret recipes and directions, that's all you need. Most recipes use measuring units such as cups, pounds, ounces, tablespoons, etc. So if you're using a recipe that is in grams, milliliters, or other units that you don't use as much, you have to have the ability to be able to convert the measurements into units you are familiar with. As for the definitions above, I can't think of anything that would be different than the 3 provided.
Are there specific cultural components attached to the literacies within this discipline?
There may be times where you have someone come into your restaurant that can't eat certain foods because of their religion, but for the most part, they can find something to eat on the menu. I don't remember dealing with any of that when I was working in the restaurant. We did have many people with severe allergies or dietary restrictions, so it was important to be educated on what products they can't eat, what menu items contain those allergens, and what products in the kitchen have them to make sure that they do not get served to that specific guest.
It's really important for students in high school to learn skills necessary to entry-level positions in the field. Are there literacy skills that entry-level members of the field have to learn anew?
Most of the students I encountered in culinary school have been cooking for a long time, including myself, so we had some basic knowledge when we started. Of course, we didn't know everything, so we were taught so much, and some of it was techniques I had never heard of before. Even though we had some basic foundation, it kind of was like starting over and learning everything brand new. Once they get a job, I think the skills that they have to learn that are new to them is just how the restaurant operates. Each place has their own way, and that really isn't something you can learn before you start working there. You can have a baseline idea of what could happen, but overall, you're not going to know what's going to happen until you get there. Other than that, you pretty much learn most of the stuff in culinary school. I will say, there were a few cooking techniques that I learned almost brand new when I started my job, but I was able to pick them up pretty quickly since I had a good knowledge foundation.
Having been to culinary school, how do you think schools can improve their efforts to equip students with the essential literacies and skills needed in this field?
I think culinary school was absolutely great. I felt that they did a great job preparing us for the industry since all of our classes were hands-on. Every day we were in the kitchen cooking, perfecting our skills, and working with chefs who have been in the industry for 20 plus years. All of our main core classes were 2 days a week and 6 hours long. I think that was a good idea to start to prepare us for the long hours on our feet, but it definitely didn't come close to the number of hours you work in a day at a real restaurant. But it's a school, so they can't really keep us for 12 hours.
You make a great point about not being able to keep students for 12 hours. So, aside from culinary school, how do you think it would help in a high school classroom?
Basic foundation skills are crucial. Practicing knife cuts, proper sanitation skills, accurate measuring, and even brushing up on different cooking techniques, such as the ones shown in this video, can all be a great starting foundation for preparing for college or career readiness.
For our last question, I want to ask you, what do you need to be successful in this industry?
To be successful in the restaurant industry, you really need to have a strong desire and passion to work there. The hours are long, you work on holidays, nights, and weekends, and say goodbye to any free time you have. I thought I had what it took to work in a kitchen since I absolutely love to bake, but it takes a special kind of person to want to do that for the rest of their life. I am glad I found out soon enough that I couldn't handle it. You also really need to have a solid education in culinary arts. At a lot of places, a culinary degree isn't required, but it is still important to have at least some idea of what you are doing. Some restaurants also have the time to train someone from the very beginning if they have no knowledge in the kitchen, but a good portion of restaurants don't have that luxury.
Thank you, Jessica, for going over some of the important literacies needed to be successful in the culinary arts industry. Now, wrapping up, what are the last few things you can tell me about going into this industry?
Sometimes, even if you plan on going into the restaurant industry, just know that it is not as it seems in the movies or on television. It is a lot of hard work and dedication, even more than you would think is already a lot. It is rewarding when all the hard work you do as a chef is recognized, and it makes all the time you spend in the kitchen worth it.